Well, Lakshya Jain, who's pollster and CEO of the Split Ticket news website, has been waiting to come on the show. Hugely grateful, and I hope I haven't inconvenienced you by having you hang around. We'll go into more detail in a moment. Your overview of what you watched last night. Morning to you.
Good morning. Let's just say I was extremely surprised. It was a very big reversal from the last debate, but what consistently surprised me was how on message Kamala Harris was and how she basically let Donald Trump take a very, very long rope and consistently just hang his own chances with it. It was such a big departure from the past debate, and Trump was considerably more unhinged as a result because he was consistently put on the back foot in a way that he just did not expect.
Everything from abortion to Ukraine via migrants eating dogs. What were the standout moments for you?
To me, I think on a policy perspective, it was baffling that Donald Trump chose to engage with Kamala Harris on abortion. It's like going toe-to-toe offensively with the Pep Guardiola side. You just don't do it, especially when you're a Republican in the United States and your party has suffered loss after loss after loss on abortion for the last 2 years. Instead of trying to move on from the topic, Trump kept re-engaging on it. That, for me, was a standout point because it shows that he doesn't really mind if that issue gets back in the spotlight any longer. And that's a big, big concern for the Republicans because that's the issue that they always lose on. The economy, which is one of the Republicans' strongest points, was one that they barely engaged on. On immigration, same thing. And the point where Trump engaged on immigration was so substance-free to the point where it sounded bizarre even to the moderate American voter. Most American voters actually are not in favor of immigration, but even then, Donald Trump's approach to it was to talk about migrants eating cats, which is so out there and so outlandish that the fact checkers had to correct him on the spot, which is never a good look for the Republican nominee. So to me, those two were the standout moments, and it just did not seem like he got essentially anything that he wanted out of it.
Lakshya, you have the Split Ticket news website. You're also a pollster. What do the snap polls? What are the overnight polls? What are they telling us?
So the overnight polls will come out in a little bit, but I suspect if the snap polls are any reaction in are indicative of any reaction, I suspect that Kamala Harris is going to get a small boost from it. It's important to remember that most of the United States is extremely polarized. 47% will vote for their party no matter what. But of that critical sliver of undecided voters, the snap polls tells us that they did not like what they saw from Donald Trump. In the Washington Post poll, out of the 24 undecided voters, 22 of them said that Kamala Harris won the debate. So that is already a pretty substantial shift from what we would have expected pre-debate. This was not a 50-50 thing. You would expect one side gets a bounce from it, and that's likely to be Kamala Harris.
Rajvinder is in Gloucester. Well done. You watched it. Who won? Good morning, Rajvinder.
Good morning, Nick. In my view, Kamala won hands down.
Right.
I was expecting it to be a lot more balanced, but I think the fact that they were muting them when the other person was speaking made Trump really try and keep his calm. And his whole narrative seemed to be a lot of Biden bashing. It was, Biden did this. This is why this has happened. He kept dodging. He wasn't answering the questions clearly. He had a set script. So one of the questions was, can you give me your view on the Ukrainian war? And are you hoping that Ukraine win the war? And his answer was, I'm going to stop the war.
Right.
And I'm going to talk to Zelensky. He said, I know Putin. I'm going to stop the war. And the same thing he said with Hamas in Israel. And he had these set answers. But Kamala, when it came to the stuff about, they eating dogs, it was just ridiculous. I think if there was an audience there, they would have just laughed at those comments.
Yes, I thought that when I heard heard the clips, heard the piece of audio. Who do you hope wins?
I really hope Kamala does win. My sister lives in the States. And she said the view of people...
Do you mind if I ask which city or whereabouts in America?
Yes, she lives in Sacramento.
Right, okay.
So she emigrated 20 years ago. So it's interesting hearing what people's opinions of them are. And it seems to be split according to where you live. So people who are supporting Trump will just put Kamala down. And also in the debate, when they asked him about, she keeps mentioning her race. Now, he is quoted as saying, they say I can call her Kamala.
Yes.
They say I can call her Kamala.
Yes.
I don't care. I'll call her whatever. And she pretends to be black. You know, she is what she is. You know, her mum is Indian and her dad is black. So she is going to be a half.
Lastly, living here, the timing was difficult, but you were determined to watch it. Why was it so important for you to watch the debate? Lastly, Rajvinder.
I think it just makes a whole difference to how the whole world runs.
Indeed.
It does. And the person who's going to be running the largest, most successful economy in the world, that's the most powerful, it has an impact on wars, it has an impact on the interest rates there, which then impacts things in our country.
Daniel in Golders Green, I'm assuming you watched it or you've taken in vast chunks of it. Daniel, who would you say would call it as the winner? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Thanks for taking my call.
Who won it? Thank you, sir. Who won it?
For me, Trump won it. I think Trump won almost after the first question, and Harris lost after the first question, because as you'll remember, Nick, Bill Clinton's famous economic advisor, Jimmy Carville, in 1992 said, "It's the economy, stupid."
I remember that well. Yeah.
Yeah, do you remember that? And frankly, you look at the last 3 years, you've had high inflation, you've got homelessness, you've got tent cities. I've got family right across America. I've got family who run businesses in New York, Florida, Los Angeles. Yeah, and they see it. They see it's awful. You've got homelessness. You've got people's incomes being eaten by inflation. And I think Trump really won it. I think Harris completely failed to say what she and Joe Biden have done in the last 3.5 years help people's dollar in their pocket.
As someone with business interests in the US, who do you hope wins and why?
Well, my family over there, to a single one of them, all are praying that Donald Trump gets back in. Because they said that in 2016, when he got in his first term, they were flying. Their businesses were doing well. They had low taxes. Their investment, their pension accounts were going up. They said businesses were thriving. Things were prospering. You look at it now, the economy in America is a mess. So they really hope that Donald Trump wins the presidential election.
Daniel, thank you. I can understand now why you stayed up to watch, and thank you for your input. Emails coming in on this. Rick says you're just doing a Trump hit piece. It's absurd. Well, I think, with respect, Rick, I hope you didn't listen to the last caller. Nick in Bristol says, is it fair to say Trump made a dog's dinner of that debate? William is listening in Cape Town. I listened to a portion of the debate. Kamala Harris came across brilliantly, focusing on the policies. Donald Trump was, Donald Trump, full of bombast, lies, negativism, and BS. And lastly, Mike points out, which is a very fair point, has everyone forgotten the date and its importance for the US? Yes, it is 9/11, of course, all those years ago.